and scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll.
Hey, what's going on? This is TNS, Time and Space, and I would like to welcome you to a special episode of Talk and Scroll. We are doing a reaction video, but before we begin, I would invite you to like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you hit that bell notification so you can be made aware of any time that I post new content. But anyway, now that the housekeeping is done, let's get into it.
It's good to see you. First question, how is Amber doing? We saw her hearing that verdict. It took a long time to read. It was a sweeping verdict for Johnny Depp. How did she handle it?
You know, one of the first things she said is, I am so sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for all women in and outside the courtroom.
Okay, first of all, I want to react to that comment. It is extremely presumptuous for Amber Heard and her attorney to believe that this case is a setback for all women because they're assuming that all women are on Amber Heard's side just by virtue of being women. So I just wanted to point that out. Let's continue.
And she feels the burden of that.
Well, knowing the case and knowing the law as you certainly do, it favors defendants like Amber Heard. Are you stunned that the jury essentially rejected her story?
Well, you know, really what happened here is it's a tale of two trials.
Also, before we get into the tale of two trials, I want to speak to the fact that the reporter is obviously pro Amber Heard to say that it was such a shock as far as the evidence and what was presented. But I want to make sure to let the video play and we'll talk about it.
Johnny Depp brought a suit in the UK for the same case. And the burden of proof was easier for him there. The son had to actually prove that it was true. And the court found there, and we weren't allowed to tell the jury this, but the court found that Mr. Depp had committed at least 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence, against Amber. So what did Depp's team learn from this? Demonize Amber and suppress the evidence.
First of all, in terms of demonizing, we need to look at the facts because obviously people will have their opinions and they'll have strong opinions, which that's to be expected in a polarizing case. But we have to look at who lost what. So, for example, Johnny Depp lost Pirates of the Caribbean, but Amber Heard did not lose Aquaman. So I just want to point that out in response to the idea that Amber Heard was so demonized.
We had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed in this case that was in the UK case. In the UK case, when it came in, Amber won, Mr. Depp lost.
But here's the thing. You were able to get some evidence that you say demonstrated abuse. You certainly had her testimony. There were pictures, documents, all kinds of evidence. But in point of fact, the jury rejected it. You argued in your closing arguments that if they found even one instance of abuse, and it did not even have to be physical abuse, that they would have to find for Amber Heard.
Okay, let's look at that. If you're talking about finding one instance of abuse for Amber Heard, the same should apply to Johnny Depp. So by that logic, if there was even one instance of abuse for Johnny Depp or that he suffered, then he should be awarded a judgment. So I just have to point out that this interview is one-sided and I'm just looking to balance it out a bit.
And they didn't.
And the other part to bear in mind here is nothing changed. The op-ed didn't even mention Mr. Depp by name. And so what basically they did here is demonize her.
Okay, everyone knew who Amber Heard was referring to in the op-ed. If you are a public figure and you are a celebrity and you're a part of a power couple or just a well-known entity, being Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, it's quite obvious who she was referring to, and the damages that Johnny Depp suffered as a result are obvious. They're quantifiable. I mean, he lost countless movie deals. He was the one that was demonized, to be honest, you know, in the years preceding this. And it took 4 years for him to receive some semblance of justice. But let's continue.
And they were able to suppress the medical records, which were very, very significant because they showed a pattern going all the way back to 2012 of Amber reporting this to her therapist, for example. We had significant amount of texts, including from Mr. Depp's assistants, saying, when I told him he kicked you, he cried. He is so sorry. That didn't come in.
Is there any other way to interpret this verdict, though, that this jury, for whatever reason, and I hear you on some of the evidence that they didn't hear, listening to Amber Heard, did not believe a single word?
Okay, I want to make sure to point out that Amber Heard herself was awarded a $2 million judgment. So she was most certainly heard, no pun intended. She was definitely believed in a sense that there was a case. It's not like they didn't go to court. It's not like there weren't any civil proceedings. This would make sense if she had been completely disregarded and we had never heard about this. If we were talking about how these issues came about or Johnny Depp committed these atrocities, yet we never heard about it, or she never had her day in court, that would be different. But let's continue.
And that's because she was demonized here. A number of things were allowed in this court that should not have been allowed. And it caused the jury to be confused. We weren't allowed to tell them about the UK judgment. So the damages is completely skewed. There are no damages. It stopped at November 2, 2020, which is when the judgment came down in the UK.
Let me ask you about social media in this case. Unlike any celebrity case, certainly I've ever covered or ever seen, social media was a part of this. And it was incredibly lopsided and vitriolic against Amber Heard. Do you think that had an effect on the case?
Absolutely.
You think jurors were aware of it? They weren't supposed to be. They're admonished every single day.
I believe that goes both ways. So in terms of whether or not the jury was aware of social media or anything like that, Johnny Depp was demonized also. We have to remember all the opportunities that he lost before this even came to light, before he even had his day in court. He was essentially presumed guilty, as many men are, unfortunately.
Don't look at it. Do you think they did see it?
How can you not? They went home every night. They have families. The families are on social media. We had a 10-day break in the middle because of the judicial conference. There's no way they couldn't have been influenced by it. And it was horrible. It really, really was lopsided. And I appreciate your saying that. It's like the Roman Colosseum, how they viewed this whole case. I was against cameras in the courtroom, and I went on record with that and had argued against it because of the sensitive nature of this. But it made it a zoo.
Does your client want to appeal?
Oh, absolutely. And she has some excellent grounds for it. We even had tried to get the UK judgment in to dismiss his case because he already had his shot. And that's one of the issues, but also a number of the evidentiary issues. There was so much evidence that did not come in.
Is she able to pay a $10.4 million judgment?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Now, I know that statement will garner some sympathy, and that's fine, regardless of which side you fall on in this Johnny Depp, Amber Heard fiasco, this situation, this judgment, whatever you want to call it. However, you have to consider, again, what Johnny Depp lost. He lost plenty of opportunities in the last 4 years, which is why his public statement was to thank the jury for giving him his life back.
Finally, in closing arguments, Amber's team argued that this would send a message, that it would send a message that no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. You need to be perfect in order for people to believe you if she did not get a favorable verdict.
Okay, I definitely take issue with this because, again, this is extremely presumptuous to act as if Amber Heard is representing all women and as if Johnny Depp is representing all men. This court case or this civil proceeding was Amber Heard versus Johnny Depp, or Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, however you want to phrase it. It was not men versus women. So I don't agree with the idea that the fate of all womankind rested on this verdict. The judge or the jury, I should say, they all looked at the facts. They looked at the facts. This was not a referendum on the future of male-female relations or conflicts or whatever you want to call it.
What message do you think this sends?
It's a horrible message. It's, as I said, a setback. It's a significant setback because that's exactly what it means. Unless you pull out your phone and you video your spouse or your significant other beating you, effectively, you won't be believed.
Okay, so the idea, once again, this is alluding to the idea of believe all women, but you have to consider it also to be balanced from the man's point of view, or for Johnny Depp's point of view. There should be a standard that you should need to meet before you take away someone's livelihood. I won't even say men, I won't even say just women. I would say any person. If I am going to bring charges against you or make allegations or accusations against you that can not only deprive you of your livelihood, but preemptively do so. He lost those movies well before this judgment, well before this was settled. So I think that's worth keeping in mind. And yes, there does need to be a standard that needs to be met.
Elaine Bredehoft, thank you very much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, to sum it up, I just want to say that we cannot afford to decide people's guilt or innocence strictly through the court of public opinion. Our legal system is not determined by a popular vote. It's not determined by a democracy. There's a reason why we have our legal system. We need to trust it, we need to utilize it, and we need to make sure that we don't preemptively punish people and take away their livelihood before they've had the opportunity to be heard. Pun intended. But anyway, this is TNS Time and Space. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Talk and Scroll. Y'all take it easy.
Scroll. Talk and scroll. Talk and scroll. Scroll.
Two.